am I willing to be vulnerable with this person I don't know? Which that can be the easiest part because they don't know you. They don't have any bias against you. Um, so that's what I found comforting is, okay, my therapist knows nothing about me.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling in Iowa.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our Vice President in charge of the BHIS Department, Behavioral Health. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today is a behavioral health counselor here at Heart and Solutions. Gunner Vargas works with children and families in Ankeny and Des Moines here in Iowa. He is passionate about helping people of all ages get to the root of some of the challenges that they may be experiencing in their lives, and also has had his own counseling experiences before. So we are very excited to talk to Gunner about BHIS and about counseling in general. Welcome to the show, Gunner. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about being a behavioral health intervention specialist here in Iowa and the kinds of things that you do with families.
Yeah, it's a fun experience, honestly. Like I've had a great time doing it. Um, yeah, just not something that I've ever been exposed to or like have seen before. I was normally like in an office and sitting down with a counselor or therapist, like, okay, like what's going on, but not really like in the home, hands-on, being able to like walk alongside the family and the kids. So yeah, it's a great experience. I've really loved it. Some of my experiences have been good, some not so good, but that's just kind of the expectation of the job, just to roll with the punches of what happens. But the rewarding side is being able to see like what happens on the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like that's the different part about BHIS and normal counseling experience is you're in their home, so you get to interact and see how they behave in all kinds of situations.
Mhm.
Can you give some examples of what type of behaviors or diagnoses that you might work with if a family is listening and interested in behavioral health counseling?
Yes, I have a couple clients who deal with like anxiety, and alongside that with like ADHD. So sometimes they really struggle to do chores, for example, take their medications if they have any, um, simple commands that parents might ask, like, "Hey, can you like take the garbage out?" And they'll give a list, and then they'll get swept up somewhere, not really knowing like where they're at in the list. Um, I have a couple clients that have ODD, and that one is a struggle. Like there can be different spectrums of where it's at, but sometimes it's arguing with the parents or not wanting to listen or like you name it, it can happen. So being able to work with that, like, okay, let's learn how to respectfully communicate with like between each other because sometimes there can be a disconnect between child and parent. So trying to help alongside bridge those gaps and where communication could be missed and whatever else.
Yeah, ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, it tends to be one of the main referral diagnoses that we come across, especially from schools, where
Mhm.
schools will see or parents will see that kind of outward presentation of defiance. And sometimes some of the symptoms will be described as like arguing without purpose, right? Or saying, disagreeing with something even when they might agree with it on their own when it comes to that interaction, having that disagreement. And it can be a very, very challenging diagnosis. And it can be a very challenging diagnosis for the child who's experiencing these symptoms because so much of the time, what the symptoms and the behaviors are trying to aim at is independence, autonomy, respect, and control. And as children don't get a lot of independence, autonomy, respect, or control. And so much of the time, the things that we're needing, those basic kind of human needs in our lives, if we're not getting them in the way that we need them, we'll kind of grasp at them in ways that might not even serve our own purposes, but we might say, okay, well, this is the only way that I've been able to get some control in my life or some sense that I have autonomy or some control or respect in my life. And then moving forward, thinking, well, this is the only way I can do that and going, okay, and now I'm getting all of these negative consequences for doing that, right? And it can just feel like such a spiral for these young kids who don't have their brains are not developed yet. They don't understand fully how to plan for the future. They can't really put themselves in those situations yet because developmentally their brains are just not developed yet, and developmentally that's appropriate. So a very, very challenging time. And I love that you are working with the individual children and with the families as well, and helping to be that kind of translator at times, right? At times it
Mhm.
feels like translating things because we can see a lot of the times where that child is coming from in what they're expressing. We just might not agree that the way that they're expressing it is being very helpful to them
Yeah.
in getting what they're aiming at. What kinds of activities do you do to help facilitate that communication between parents and children?
Yeah. Like obviously at the start when I'm kind of like learning the vibe of the family, like as you could call it, I just observe. Like if um so one family in particular, at the start I really watched how client interacts with the parent. It's like, okay, like where could there be issues between communication between the kid but also the parent? Like where could be some issues? And as that goes along, it's like, okay, where are we at with this? And after I get like a good feel of like what some of like the major issues are. So if, for an example, one of them could be like talking back and like openly defying what the parent could say. Um, like, okay, let's legit just like sit down and talk about why are we displaying these behaviors? Why do you not want to listen to parent? And just those kinds of things. That one can be like a little more like extreme of one, you could say. Another example that I have is parent will tell the kid to do like W, X, Y, and Z. It's like, okay, we'll do A, but we won't do X or something like that. And I just had a session last week where I was like, okay, we're gonna do our own thing, like myself and the kid, we're just gonna do our own thing. But then integrating mom into it, it's like, okay, the kid has voiced some things that they want to talk about, but don't know how to like openly say it. Like this is something that there's a disconnect between because the client has obviously talked to the parent about. I'm like, all right, I'm helping facilitate this conversation. I am going to be the mediator. And if there's an issue where parent starts to raise their voice or gets more aggressive or is getting stern, it's like, all right, let's level the tone out a little bit because we're trying to bridge the gap where it's not attack after attack. Um, so I find it to be helpful. And Say, okay, we're just going to talk very respectfully with each other because sometimes there isn't that and you don't really know how to do that. Say, I'm not wanting to tell you how to parent and how to parent your kid, but on the psychological end, it can be degrading towards like, I can't fight for myself. I can't do this. I can't do that. So also giving the kid a voice, but also giving the parent a voice. Like, okay, how can we help each other to clean the house, for example? Like, okay, let's do a dishwashing game. Let's make this something that you'd want to do to help benefit the family almost. Um, so sometimes it can be very rewarding to see like, oh, we're making progress. And then sometimes the next time you do it, it's like, okay, we took a step back, but that's just the growing pains of how to handle that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, like you were saying, family sessions were kind of like the middleman and kind of helping to mediate those conversations and
Hmm.
taking what child says to you, because maybe they'll tell you things they're not telling parent and what parent's saying to you and helping them communicate together to get that. And I like how you mentioned like a dishwashing game too. I feel like a lot of BHIS, even though it just looks like games, is we're working on those behaviors at the same time and they're learning to improve their communication through a game or activity. Can you give some examples of games or activities that you might do in sessions and to work with kids?
Yeah, so one of them, one of them that I do quite a bit is football and soccer. And the reason why it honestly works so well is one of them has a lot of energy. Like you could fill cups with how much the kid has. So we definitely spend quite a bit of time just outside. So I'm trying to expend as much energy of that as possible so that way the client gets tired and we're able to work. Like if I have a worksheet, it's like, okay, I've exhausted the kid enough. Now we're able to try and focus and do that because there is so much just energy pent up in there. Um, but also at the same time, very competitive. So it's working on that kind of thing. It's like, okay, if you're wanting to go back to soccer like you have before, we need to work on this so you're not wanting to act physically towards a teammate or towards an opponent because you'll get a red card, for example, and you won't be able to play. And that's something that you want to do. So making the goal achievable, but also saying like, if this is important to you, these are the rules that you have to abide by. Um, so really having that stern conversation from be his provider to client, saying like, if you're wanting this, this is what we have to do. Like I'm trying to get you there, but you also have to participate in that. And the same thing goes with football too. Like, okay, how do we communicate with we could be working on? But utilizing something that they enjoy for your benefit as a provider, but also for the benefit of the kid and also the family.
Absolutely. It really goes to motivation, and so much of the time, children and young people, their motivations are a little bit overlooked, I think, in our
Mhm.
society, right? So we'll see a child saying no or fighting back against a rule in soccer, for example, or breaking a rule in soccer, and getting the consequences of that. And a lot of times as adults, I think it's tempting to think, well, they just wanted to act that way, right? Or they just wanted
Yeah.
to cause a problem. And so I really like that you're going to motivation for children and really respecting that they do have their own motivations, and those motivations are not generally malicious. And so the motivation to want to be able to participate in soccer, participate in football, that is a strong motivation. And it's a much stronger motivation to be able to tap into than, hey, do this because it will make your coach happy, right? Or do this because
Yeah.
your mom's asking you to, right? Those there are people are generally relationship driven, but once that relationship has that conflict kind of built in and has that power dynamic already built in, then it makes a lot of sense to go to those individual intrinsic motivations that children
Hmm.
have already and are very excited about. So I love that.
Yeah. Another like great example of that is one of my clients, like younger age, but in Little League soccer. And the client's birthday is coming up and getting close with some of the like soccer pals and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, you're needing to learn your players' names if you want to invite them to your birthday party. So it's like you have to pay attention. And then that's when I also integrate, like, you also have to pay attention to what your coach says, to what people in authority have to say, but also your teammates too. Like, what are the needs of your teammates? And then I also integrate what are the needs of your parents? Like, what do your parents need from you? So there's definitely a bunch of avenues that you can take with it. And that's what, like, I enjoy about it. So,
Absolutely. Being able to bring that into to meeting that child's need, because as soon as you're modeling, hey, I want your needs to get met, so I'm going to help you get those needs met. As soon as you're modeling that, that's a model that that child can use now and can practice to look at what are the needs of my coach, what are the needs of my teammates, what are the needs of my parents, because somebody has modeled that for them to say,
mhm.
this is how you do it. This is how it feels for you when somebody really is attuned and interested in what your needs are and helping you to get your needs met. And that is something that you have the power to do for other people as well. So I think it's beautiful, and I love that sports play such a big part in this because we don't always think about sports when it comes to counseling. Sometimes those things
Yeah,
seem so different, and so far apart. But really, when it comes to that extra energy and then that team atmosphere, being able to communicate things with your team so that you can all reach your goal, which is the literal goal,
yeah.
then it brings up so many of those specific skills and the opportunities to practice them. Yeah, wonderful. So, what got you interested in working with children or working with people on these kinds of challenges?
Yeah, like something that I've always said since I started thinking about like, oh, what do I want to study in college? Is I've like myself have struggled a lot in like in the mental health area and have gotten to the deep dark kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, so something that I continuously said was, I don't want to see myself walking around. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that. So trying to motivate myself on how can I best help someone who is also struggling. And yeah, like I've helped kids throughout high school and all that kind of stuff whilst I'm in high school. But then having the experiences that I experienced through college just emphasized it more. Like if I can help prevent the things that have happened to me, like in high school or in college, then starting at this younger age, elementary school, even in high school when they're teenagers, um, trying my best to help prevent some of those things that I've gone through.
When did you start counseling for yourself then, and what was your own kind of journey in finding counseling?
Yeah, so the first time I've ever like had counseling was when I got out of a mental health hospital because it's obviously required to have get a therapist and get medication. And that worked for so long, but having school and having youth group right after just made it very busy. So then I really stopped doing that. And that experience was all right, but it wasn't the greatest because I was still kind of rebelling and having hardships, but also really wasn't good with like my family. It didn't really start until like college. At my college, we had free counseling, like free counseling services. I was like, yeah, absolutely. And my coach actually suggested that I go because at college I did collegiate cross country and track. And he said, just based off some of the stuff that like I know about you, like I think it'd be a good idea. So he got me introduced to it. And since then, like it was so good. Like I loved my therapist. He definitely helped me like through like a lot of the dark stuff, but also I've got this really hard practice. I've got this cross country track meet coming up, but I also have these exams to go through. So just helping me with the plans that we had for like session, but also just how you doing, like in general, like how's your day going, like what's been going on. So being able to openly talk about that kind of stuff, but without feeling judged, without feeling pressured. Um, so yeah, overall, my experience has been pretty good.
Yeah, and it is difficult, for younger people when they start counseling because schedules are so busy, especially when you're
Yeah.
in sports, especially when you're in youth groups. And it can be very challenging during those times. And when we don't feel like it's the right fit, that can make it even easier to have that get kind of pushed out with the busyness. And it sounds like when you were in college, you were very open to that suggestion
Mhm.
coach. You are very open to putting yourself out there with that therapist. And it sounds like you loved a lot of things about that therapist, and mainly that they were open to going where you were going. So,
Yeah.
because you talked about the pressure, do you think that is something that a lot of people experience when they go to counseling? That kind of thought of like, oh, there's going to be this pressure to talk about everything and anything. Have you experienced that before?
I have to some degree. I don't want to like throw a bias in there, but there is a stereotypical of guys can't show their emotions, they can't show their feelings and those kinds of things. So it definitely felt real, like from my father because he was an ex-Marine, so stone cold, all that kind of stuff. Um, so having carrying that, but also learning like it's okay to cry, it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that. So having not necessarily having the pressure, but allowing myself to feel those feelings, allowing myself to open up, to be vulnerable. Um, so in a sense, you could say like that's the pressure of it is, am I willing to be vulnerable with this person I don't know? Which that can be the easiest part because they don't know you. They don't have any bias against you. Um, so that's what I found comforting is, okay, my therapist knows nothing about me. Like I had changed therapists because the one retired, so I had a new one. So it's like, okay, now have to reopen myself again for a second time. Um, but the more that the connection grows between therapist and client makes it so much easier. Like there would be times where I'd be like, I don't want to talk. Like am I ready to talk about this? Not yet. Okay, that's fine. Like there's no pressure there because we've already developed a rapport with each other. So it's like, okay, just like take it at your own pace, your own time. And when you're ready to talk about it or do something about it, then you will.
Was it difficult then? I know you mentioned like your dad was kind of like stone cold, like ex-Marine. Was it difficult like talking to
Hmm.
your family about needing mental health services and how was that process of kind of, I know you've said it started like when you were in a mental health hospital. So what was that kind of like with them opening up to you getting counseling as well?
It it was hard, and especially when some of my family found out I was getting my degree in psychology, say, "Oh, it's that kind of thing that you're gonna do," and I'm like, no, like I just genuinely need to talk to someone. I genuinely need this. I genuinely need that. It's like you can't, like I can do my best to talk to my brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandpa, like all those kinds of people in someone's life, but it doesn't mean the same thing when you're being able to be vulnerable with someone you don't know. They have no biases against you. They don't know your past. They have nothing to judge you on, and they don't want to judge you. That it's not what they're for, and that's not like why we're here. Um, so yeah, it was challenging. Like when I had gone to the hospital, it was hard to open up to the therapists in the psych ward. Like, I don't want to talk to these people. Like, they're gonna judge me for like why I'm here, whatever. Um, But that was when I kind of realized that they just want to help. Like they're not something super scary or something like that. Um, and from then on, it was like, oh, like, have you like gone to therapy? Have you not? It's like, no, I haven't. Like, I've just been really busy and whatnot. And even my coach, like at college, is like, have you been going? And if you have, how's it going? Just all those kinds of things. And like, it's going good, or like, no, I haven't gone in like a month or so. And it's like, okay, like I can see noticeable changes in your behavior between when you do go and when you don't go. Um, so yeah.
It's huge to have a role model who is supportive of going to counseling. I mean, that's
Mhm.
absolutely huge because we don't always get that from our families. And sometimes our families might be okay with us going, right? Like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. But for somebody to put in that support of kind of checking in with you about it and saying, hey, I'm noticing this.
Hmm.
I'm encouraging you to keep going because it's doing good things for you that I can see as an outside person. That is huge. And so many people don't have that coach or that teacher or family member in their life that is supportive of that. And so for those people listening who go, yeah, it would be great to have somebody like that in my life, right? That thinks that, yeah, it's okay to talk about my feelings and it's okay to talk about what I'm going through and it's okay to struggle with things in life because life is hard. What might you say to those people that maybe don't have that role model in their lives?
Yeah, it can definitely be challenging. I say that I had it easy because I had a youth pastor that was dedicated because like I think it was day 3 that I was in there. He actually drove down, which was I think a 4-hour drive, and he came and saw me, immediately cried. So like I had someone there who genuinely cared. Say, okay, like I want to come visit you to see like how you're doing. But there's also been times where I've like walked alongside someone who's wanting to self-harm, who has self-harm, who are having suicidal ideation thoughts. Say, okay, like, is there someone that we can talk to? No. Okay, then I can be that person to walk alongside you. Say, I can only do that for so long, but we do eventually need to talk to like an adult, to someone that's able to get you better help that you need. And that can be that can be the scary part is if they're not ready to tell someone. Say, okay, and that's a line that I've always had is I will not tell someone immediately unless you give me a reason to. Say I can be that person until we get to this line, and then I can be your person after, but that's where um, I personally draw the line. So I personally do my best to substitute that if they don't have someone in there. And if they do, it's like, okay, how can we work up the courage to tell someone that you are struggling, that you are having these thoughts, having these feelings? Um, so yeah, that it's gonna sound weird, but that's the joy I find in it is having gained the trust of that person to have that person confide in you. Um, yeah, it's definitely something special.
Yeah. Can you share like what led to you going into the mental health hospital and how you were able to then like start getting help yourself?
Yeah, it was challenging. So, uh, like a month prior to me going, I had gotten really sick. Like skin and bone, like I had muscle, like I was in uh, cross country, all that kind of stuff. But it hurt to walk, it hurt to do anything. But that's when the thoughts kind of started. And it even started in that summer too, going from my freshman year of high school to sophomore year of high school. I didn't really have any friends in, but someone who went to at the youth group that I attended to, he invited me into the friend group. So I joined them and all their little shenanigans that would happen and whatnot. But a majority of them were all going to college for the first time. So I got left and I got stranded. So I felt abandoned. So there was that um, lack of camaraderie. And my mom and our relationship was fracturing. Myself and my brother's relationship was fracturing. So I didn't really have anyone to like help hold me up. So I was slowly sinking down and also self-sabotaging some of my friendships because I was trying to like seek friendship, but in an unhealthy way. So I eventually got to the point where I did start self-harming to substitute that, not having any energy. So self-harm became a very high priority. Um, and then let's see, October 10 is when I was like, yep, this is the day that I'm going to just leave. I'm just going to end it. In my last ditch effort to seek help, I called my best friend Kirby, who I call a brother, and like I was on my way to school to one act practice, and I was like, I'm gonna act sick. They're gonna send me home, and that's how it's gonna happen. But I called him walking to practice, saying like, I'm so sorry, I let you down, like all this kind of stuff. But he saw it in time. He heard it. He called my youth pastor. My youth pastor called the sheriff. And by the time I got home, I saw that my mom was still at the house when I thought she was going to be gone at work. And then 10 minutes later, the sheriff knocks at the door. And that's when it kind of started. 2 days later, I finally go back to school and I tell my cross country coach. And from that point, since she is a mandatory reporter, she had to tell the principal. And the principal was like, you're going to go. And I didn't really have a choice. It really upset my mom that I didn't tell her because I knew she had like struggled with some of the similar stuff, but not really because there's also a hint of struggling like with my sexuality and all that kind of stuff. So that definitely sent a tailspin into that as well. Um, so yeah, that's how I got sent to the ward.
Wow, I mean, it sounds like the support system in your life really did step up for you and
Yeah.
really did catch you in that moment where you had a specific outlined time sensitive plan uh,
Hmm.
and reached out to your friend, and your friend had enough insight and understanding into what you were going through that they asked for help. And that's an amazing thing. I mean, the fact that you still call him a brother, I get that
Yeah.
because he saved your life in
Yeah.
that moment. Yeah, I mean, absolutely amazing story because I think so many people, as you were describing the situation and how some of those relationships were struggling and you didn't feel like you had anybody to talk to. And so many people feel like they have nobody. So many people feel like nobody will care, nobody will miss me, nobody will do anything. And even in that moment when you were feeling that way, that your relationships were struggling and you were doing some of that, that many people stepped up and cared and took action is incredible, and we don't always think about the sheriff caring, right? And actually showing up and caring enough to go to the home. We don't always think about the principal stepping up and saying, hey,
Yeah.
this is the plan and this is what we're doing. So we got to keep you safe. And so for so many of us, and especially for so many young people in high school, the idea that, well, I don't have anybody, right, can feel so overwhelming and so isolating. And your story is so inspirational because you felt the same way, and yet you had so many people in your corner wanting good things for you. It's incredible, and I'm so glad that your friend had enough insight and knew
Mhm.
you. And a big part of that is that you were vulnerable with your friend, that
Yeah.
you were sharing with your friend what was going on, and that you called your friend that day is huge. And it shows hope, and it gives hope for other people who are maybe feeling that way too. What was it that made you call your friend that day? What was it that made you reach out and say, "Hey, I'm just gonna kind of talk to him and say goodbye to him"?
Yeah, I still wonder that to this day of like why was it him that I called? Like I could have called my youth pastor. I could have called anyone. But I think it's because between him and another guy that I call my brother, they went to college at the same time. They roomed together. The other one, I was self-sabotaging our friendship, and I felt like I couldn't lean on him. So I went to my other friend, and I felt like he was the one that I could trust. But out of the both of them, I was like, he's probably gonna like hurt worse if I like don't tell him to say goodbye or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I think it's because if there is anyone that would do their darndest to stop it was gonna be him. And it was my way, I think, of doing a last ditch effort to seek help, to like, I know I'm gonna do it. It's gonna happen in a couple hours. So if someone can stop it, it's gonna be him. Like he'd find a way to. Um, but obviously, sure enough, he did. Um, so yeah, I think that's why.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's so cool to think about because you like subconsciously were doing it. You probably weren't thinking like, oh, he's gonna call and stop
Yeah.
me, but he did. So that's cool to think about. And I know you said like you got into counseling because you don't want to see like other people going through what you went through, like walking around and not being able to
Mhm.
help them. So kind of like how they were for you as well and having all those support people in your life. Are there interventions or things you learned through counseling that you try and implement with your own clients now to kind of help be that support person for them as well?
Yeah. One of them that I've tried doing is a simple grounding technique. And I kind of talked about it during our meeting when I was explaining it, is just like feeling the water droplet on your head and then just slowly feeling like the rest of your body. So you're able to like feel kind of yourself because you're not thinking about anything. You're focused on one thing. It's like, okay, how am I actually feeling? Um, and you're able to like relax. Like that's something that my therapist at college would do quite a bit is if he knew I was really stressed, I had stuff going on, like my personal life, all that kind of stuff. It's like, all right, that's how we're going to start it. And I'd feel a lot more open about everything. I say, okay, I'm in a calm, safe place in order to like talk about these things. So I definitely try to implement that one. Um, as much as possible into the sessions, especially if there's just a lot of stuff going on in the home with the parents, um, whatever it may be. It's just how's the mental health of the kid? Like, and they can be 6 and 7, but they still notice things, they still feel things, and it's still important because that impact can impact the rest of their life, the rest of their little kid years, their teenage years, if it's not addressed and if it's not helped.
Yeah, and I like that you identify that that technique, the water droplet technique, because it is so important to be able to focus on one thing sometimes. You know,
Hmm.
our world is so chaotic. There are so many things happening all the time around us, and it can be so overwhelming. And the idea of focusing on one thing can be very stressful because then we think, well, there's all these other things that now I'm not thinking about and I'm not focusing on. And so, how do I pick one thing to focus on? And something like being in session and doing a technique like that allows us to focus on one thing, and we're not choosing. We're not having to make a decision, right? Which thing am I focusing on? We're not saying one thing's more important than another thing. We're saying this is the thing, and it's outside of our world that is so chaotic and so overwhelming. And often with self harm, often that is one of the goals, right? Because everything feels chaotic and everything feels overwhelming. Self harm sometimes feels like, okay, well, this is something outside of all of that. And when there's the physical sensation, that's all I'm focusing on. And I can focus on that because it's kind of cutting into that world that we're in, right, in our mind, and allowing us to be back into the present moment. And so, things that are sensory, and especially for some of the kiddos that you described that have a lot of energy, that have a lot of like,
Mhm.
they're very physical, right? And so self harm very often can have to do with that. Okay, I need some of that physical feeling, that adrenaline that comes with pain. And so other activities like you talked about, running, running
Yeah.
is amazing for that because man, I'm not a runner, and when I'm running, that's all I can think about is how much I hate running, right? So running is so great for that, and soccer and these other activities that you're talking about really do kind of channel that need that sometimes it feels like self-harm is the only way to meet that need. And you're providing those kiddos the opportunity to meet that need in these other ways. And anything sensory, right? Ice and like you said, the water droplets and even physically doing water, right,
Mhm.
on ourselves and just letting those run down. It validates the physical sensation piece of the self of some of the goal of self harm, and I think that doesn't get talked about enough. I think
Yeah.
that a lot of times it gets stereotyped as, well, you're doing it to affect other people, or all of these other things, when really it is a legitimate need that people are trying to meet, and sometimes that feels like the only way to do it. So I love that you're introducing all of those other ways as well for those kiddos. Yeah, very, very important. So what are some of the other, I know that you talked about the things that you liked about the therapist that you started seeing in college, and so there are sometimes people who go and meet with a counselor and they just don't mesh, right? They don't feel that sense of safety that you felt in that
Mhm.
situation. What might you suggest for somebody who maybe finds themselves in that situation and goes, yeah, I want what Gunner's describing, right? Like, I want that sense of outsideness, and this person isn't going to judge me because they don't know me. They don't know my life. They
Yeah.
don't know my family. What suggestion might you give that person?
That's a fun question because it's definitely it can depend on the past, like what the person has experienced, and it can definitely affect if it's a male or female. Like if it's a male or female therapist, sometimes there's like abuse on either side. So it can be harder to want to be with a male or be with a female. Um, or whoever the therapist is, if there's like that sense of abuse, it can be harder. Like I've had like male abuse before, so it made me very stressful for like my therapist that I had because he was a guy. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and loved him, loved the therapist. So it definitely will come down to like just in general, what is your preference? What are you seeking? And that's the fun part is when you know. Like you'll know when you have the right persons. Like if you're looking for a partner, you'll know when you know. And it's the same thing with a therapist. You'll know based off of how they interact with you, the types of questions that they ask, and if they're really willing to dive into the deep end with you and not just there to check off the boxes. Um, and who's genuinely caring for your well-being. Um, so I'd say like be patient with it. Like you don't want to rush it. You want to be with someone that is genuinely going to help, who is going to assist you with your goals because you have to have some goals in mind as you go into it. And if not, the therapist also needs to help make those goals with you. Say, okay, what is achievable? What is not achievable at this time? Um, so that's what I'd say. Patience and when you know, you know.
Well, so I know you just recently graduated from college too, so obviously you probably don't have that same counselor anymore. Are you
Mhm.
still in counseling, or where's your kind of counseling experience right now? Are you just kind of taking what you just learned from that counselor and working on your?
Yeah, it's rough because he was retiring as I was leaving. So we basically did everything together. So he went through basically 4 years with me. Um, so it's definitely harder because I'm not going to have that same experience again. I'm not going to have the same therapist, the same thoughts, the same ideas, the same voice, even. Sometimes the voice can be relaxing, and that's what can be comforting. Um, so it's definitely harder because you have to go out of your way to go find one. You have to go out of your way to do it. So I currently, right now, I had to get a referral. So I have to go to the doctor. Like, these are the issues that I have. I've been diagnosed with these, and I've been told I need to have a therapist in order for me to get my medication because of what my medication has to be. Um, but also, you can't just do medication. You can't just do therapy sometimes. Sometimes you need to have the combination of the two, just depending upon what the circumstance is. So like right now, I have an appointment next month to go meet a new therapist. I'm like, all right, how's it gonna go? It just, yeah, sometimes it can be exciting and say, okay, like I have to adult now to go do something.
Yeah, it can be, the words are usually, I mean, it can be very exciting and it can also be very challenging. The
Mhm.
idea of walking into or virtually walking into a space with a brand new person and not knowing. But I love that you've got the experience and the self-knowledge to know that your instincts are correct. Your instincts are going to be what is going to lead you and the advice that you're giving of listen to your instincts, follow that. You will know when you know, you know. And when it's not right, you'll know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so you're going in there fully equipped with obviously you can't control what that other counselor is or how they are or anything like that, but you've got what you need because you are going to trust your own instincts and you know that they are right and they've led you well. And that's huge because nobody can take that away from us. And nobody can ever change that for us. We're the only ones. So
Mhm.
I think that that is beautiful. And what a great example for other people because it is hard. I mean, 4 years with one therapist and then you graduate, which is great,
Yeah,
right? But it changes the whole thing and they're retiring and that's great for them, but it changes the whole thing. And so many different things come up that make it so that people have to have a new therapist. And you're such a great example of going, yeah, that is I don't like that, right? Having to transition away from him. But at the same time, you're open to trying somebody else and you're open to meeting with somebody else. And that is the most important thing. And I think just such a great example that you're providing for others. Yeah, wonderful. Wow. So, what suggestion might you give to somebody who maybe, uh, I keep thinking about your friend and just the support that he gave to you, right, in
hmm
your darkest moment. And I if somebody is listening who's thinking, gosh, my friend is struggling with some of these things, right? I think my friend might need some support and might be kind of in that part of the journey where Gunner was then. What might you tell to that friend that's listening and thinking about somebody they want to support?
You have to be patient. Like it's a patient game and it is the worst game ever. Like like I've had to be that person, walk alongside them while they're self-harming. I'm like, it hurts because uh my hometown is in Nebraska and we'd have like speech competitions. So all the schools in the area know each other because it's a town of less than 500 people. So everyone knows each other, even the surrounding communities. And my friend would be like, I did it again. I did it again. I'm like, just look for one more day. Just find something this day to be happy about or to be joyful about. It's forcing them to find something. You woke up in the morning? Great. You had your favorite Pop Tart? Wonderful. It doesn't need to be some huge, grand thing. It just got to be the tiniest things. Um, what's something that you're grateful for today? And then sometimes the scary part is it could be a time bomb. Like you don't know if the person has a plan. You don't know if the person has had the thoughts of said plan. Um, so it's an awful waiting game, and sometimes it can be a time bomb. And the best thing that you can do as that friend is be patient. Watch for the signs. Like when you start to notice something taking a turn, it sometimes can be subtle, but a behavior will change. How they act will be different. Um, and how they interact with other people will be different. So, patience, being observant, and being there. Simply just being there is probably one of the important things. They're not wanting you to do anything. I know I didn't want my friend to do anything. Like before I hit that road, it was like a straight road. Just being there, it's like I'm just here. I'm here for you. I'm not here because I need to be. I'm here for you. Like I want to be here. And really emphasizing that, like no matter how ugly it can get sometimes, that you're not gonna leave them. So I'd those would be the things that I would say. Having been in that place, but also having been in that place for someone else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. Well, thanks for being on our podcast, Gunner.
I'm Gunner Vargas and I need a counselor.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.